All right. So his serious question is, I'd like to know the most expensive mistake you've made in real estate investing. And then on the flip side, let's hear your biggest win.
I'll go first. All right. So my biggest mistake, and I've shared this when I've talked about burring, is, you know what we've all talked about is you get a little too confident, and that's where you make your biggest mistakes. And we were buying, this would have been probably 2016 or 17. We are buying a bunch of properties from the sheriff's sale, and that's where you basically bid on it today, pay it for tomorrow. There's no due diligence. Your only due diligence is before the actual auction. And I made a mistake. I drove down the street. I looked at this property. I knew the floor plan. I looked in the, I didn't even look in the windows, but I knew if we gutted it, it would be this much per square foot. Drove down this one-way street, kept going, did not look in my rearview mirror or stop to look at even the left side of this house. Won the bid the next day, went and walked the property, realized that the entire left side of that roof was exposed, and God knows for how long. So I literally, and I got pictures. There's actually crazy pictures to share, these before and afters. But so water has been going in. Think about a sheriff's sale. I mean, who knows how long that roof's been open, and it wasn't just a gut rehab. Like we literally had to replace so many of the exterior walls. Like the entire floor had to be replaced. Now we turned it into a really cool place because we created 10-foot ceilings and we were able to do a bunch of stuff. But I think the biggest part of the mistake, one, was the due diligence piece, but I tried to fix a mistake by making more mistakes. Now I had 30,000 into that problem right there. I bought it for 30,000 at the sheriff's sale. Call it 35 with some attorney fees. I should have turned around and sold for 20 or 25.
Call it a day.
And called it a day and just said, you know what, I did it. But I tried to outpace my mistake. And ultimately, we did it. We built a new amazing property. We put more into it than we expected. We didn't get as much for on the sales side. You know, all the way up into the ad, I remember us getting the AC stolen like the day before closing, and we had to go replace that. And it just was problem on top of problem. I think at the end of the day, we ended up losing 40 grand. Or 30, it was 30 grand. We ended up losing 30 grand. But if you take all the opportunity costs, that was a huge project. It's probably one of the biggest projects like our team. We had a pretty good system going on where you're in and out of properties 4 to 6 weeks. But we were in there for about 2.5 months, and just the opportunity costs of all the time, the energy. I was trying to like not piss off my partners that I made a big mistake. So there's a level of like me having the anxiety throughout the whole transaction, trying to do everything I can, spend a little more time on things, doing things myself versus hiring somebody. Like opportunity cost is probably another 40 or 50 because we probably got another 2 or 3 properties out of that process. So that's my biggest mistake.
There you go. All right. Biggest mistake. I got a couple. I don't have like that big 6-figure, knock on. I haven't had that like huge mistake. I think a couple of them, couple high level things is just like my beginning strategy and not buying in my area when I could have, right? Like you look back like, oh, just a very general statement. Specific one, if you remember I had a duplex over on St. Lawrence on the south side there. And this was one I bird and got money. Don't worry, it gets bad, but it starts off real good. I bird, I get paid like at closing. Like I had more than enough money. I didn't replace the boiler. I was so worried about pulling out all my cash that like I cut the scope. It looks great on paper, right? You burr the whole thing out. It's a duplex. Boiler goes out. Had to replace it. It's a smaller building, but we spent like 15 grand or whatever. And then like 6 months later, like at the next turn, it was like March and then like November, like same calendar year, 2 different winters. Then all the piping busted. It couldn't handle the boiler. Yeah. So like it was like another 15 grand. And like I kind of panicked and just put another like we fixed the piping. So I ended up spending 30 grand, like displacing tenants, like going through all of this when I could have just done it on the front end. At the end of the day, I still had to pay the gas bill. I should have just done 2 HVAC. At the time, HVACs were probably 8 or 9 grand a unit, right? I could have just paid 16 grand, never had to pay a gas bill. And I had to pay 30, like you said, all the headaches, the opportunity costs 2 different times, get them out of there. Terrible experience for them. And at the end of the day, I still was the guy paying the gas. So it's such an avoidable mistake. I wasn't tight on budget. It was like such a cocky, oh, let me get all my money out and get paid. Like it was it's such a bad attitude.
You learned your lesson because I remember you put in 3 individual furnaces on the following 3 flat. Like
yes,
on I think that was St. Lawrence too. It was right down the street.
Langley.
Okay,
yeah. I would say that, and another like just general one. Like Chris and I have probably done 50 projects, probably more. We've lost money on 2 flips. We lost 20K on a bungalow. We lost 15K on a condo in Lincoln Park. And both times it was, oh, we'll be in and out for 40K. Like we deviated from our normal plan, said, oh, this will be easy. And it was always after a big hit. It was always after we just killed it on something. And we were flush and just said, yeah, we'll make this work. We're invincible. Both mistakes came after huge wins. So I think that's just like another general one out there. After a huge win, take a deep breath. You don't got to push it.
Well, I think the other thing we always messed up on is you have a system, you guys go and you do X amount and it's this 6-figure rehab you do. And we had something similar where we always were kind of going in and spending 35, 45 on these. And it was the one that always screwed us. Like, this one's partially rehabbed. We probably only need to put 10 grand into it and we'd be good to go. But then we get in there and you know, that you move out, you rip out one thing. You're like, ah, man, I saw these guys didn't do the plumbing good. Let's redo that while we're in here. It's like, well, the plumbing, if we got this wall open, we might as well add another bat. Like, the ones that we think they're okay, or it might end up being lipstick on it and we think we could get by, because it ends up being like quality then. You know, we start getting a standard. And the ones that we do go 10 grand in and maybe we stick to it, we end up getting nickel and dime on all the things we didn't do. One of the things about probably your guys' strategy and what our strategy used to be with the burring was your goal is to not have maintenance for 3 years. Like, if you're doing all this great stuff to it, you should have very limited maintenance, which does two things. One, obviously helps you feel good about your cash flow the first 3 years, but two, resident experience. You should be able to keep a tenant that first entire 3 years and be minimal disturbance to them.
Yep. All right, let's keep moving here.
There's another part of that question though.
Oh, the biggest win. Sorry.
Yeah.
You want to go?
So my biggest win has no skill to it whatsoever. We bought a package of, I think, 12 homes, 12 buildings, 27 units from CIC, I think somewhere 2017, 18. And shout out to Andre. But bought it from him. We started working on the projects. At that time, we were always probably 6 or 7 buildings, like just sitting, waiting for something to happen. Get a call from the board up guys that our house burned down. It was a vacant 4-flat in Woodlawn that we paid $22,000 for, and we ended up.
Oh, and you got replacement costs?
$325,000, baby. So that was like, it's like, part of me like feels nervous about saying stuff like that or sharing that story because like I did something wrong, but I really did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. We did anything. You know, the first obviously instinct was like, hopefully no homeless people in there or anything like that. But we knew we had at least. We thought we had it secured because obviously someone went in there and burned the place down. But yeah, so that was a big win. And the funny thing about that is we ended up bringing money to the closing table to get the land sold. Now that was at the 6600 block of Evans, which now they have new construction going up for. And I struggled to sell that city lot for $5,000. I remember my goal was to hold it for the future because we knew that things were coming. What I was just talking about, and I just kept getting nickel and dime on these damn city fees. Like I probably had another $6,000 into city fees like after a year and a half.
Yeah. Biggest win. Some of the rentals we have, like when you can burn out all your money, basically have quote unquote a free building in like an A+ neighborhood. Like it doesn't get any better than that. We did my Lakeview buildings perform really well. The best flip I think he says here, the best flip you've done. The best flip we did was we'll throw the address, 1827 Kyler. It was one no one could buy. It had all these violations. Like you had to come in cash. And we're able to get it at a very, very steep discount. We almost thought about turning it around right away, right? Just clearing up some of the violations and you know, quote, kind of wholesaling it. We didn't. Everything went right on this one. You know, these rehabs can be anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. This was closer to 3. We walked into 9-foot ceilings. Didn't have to dig out. We didn't have to do water service. Like they just didn't catch on the plans. We didn't have to do the roof. Like the envelope was good. The only masonry did was when we moved windows around. Like all those big items were taken care of. So you know you're spending $350, not $500. Had the wind to our back, things go up, and we sold the thing at 1.3. It was just it was like and then we bought that stupid condo I mentioned. So when those things are when those big flips go well, they go well.
But you had a couple of there's skill, but there's timing, and no matter what, I think all the bigger you know, I was lucky the building burned down. I had the right insurance policy. Like there's a level of just kind of timing and luck that ends up playing, I think, a lot of times as well too. But
you need to be process orientated, not so much result orientated. When your ARV is going to be a year from now, like you need to be very process orientated. And sometimes like you'll make a ton of mistakes and the market will forgive you. And sometimes opposite, you'll do everything perfectly and it won't perform as you thought. Like you just got to focus on what you can control and keep it within those goalposts.